The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floors. Representatives from 200 species sat in their designated sections, their forms ranging from massive gas beings to tiny crystalline entities. At the very back, in the least prestigious seats, sat the human delegation. Daesung adjusted his plain gray uniform and listened to the Talveen ambassador drone on about trade quotas. The human ambassador kept his face neutral, showing just the right amount of confusion when complex financial terms were used. Around him, other species barely concealed their contempt. Humans were useful for their music and art, but militarily and technologically, they were nothing. The human contribution to galactic defense remains inadequate, announced the Council Arbiter, a floating being of pure energy. 2 centuries of membership, yet your fleet consists of outdated vessels that could barely defend a single moon. Daesung stood slowly as if gathering courage.
Honored Arbiter, we do our best with what we have.
Our scientists work day and night to understand the technology you have graciously shared with us. Perhaps with more time. More time? Interrupted a reptilian delegate. You have had 200 years. My species mastered plasma drives in 50 years after joining the council. Scattered laughter rippled through the chamber. Daesung lowered his head, the picture of humiliation. Inside, he was counting the ships currently being built in the hidden facility beyond Neptune. 3,000 stealth destroyers, 500 carrier groups. More than enough. The meeting dragged on for hours. Humans nodded along, took notes, and accepted every criticism with patient smiles. When the session finally ended, Daesung walked slowly back to the human transport, knowing dozens of species were watching. The transport itself was a joke. A clunky vessel that sputtered and sparked, taking twice as long as modern ships to reach the same destinations. Inside the transport, once the doors sealed and jammers activated, Daesung's expression changed completely. Status report, he said crisply. Hana, commander of the visible human fleet, pulled up a holographic display. The Council's spy satellites recorded our morning patrol. 5 cruisers just as slow and incompetent as expected. They had another good laugh. And the real fleet? Hidden Base Gamma 7 reports full operational capacity. We now have installations in 47 star systems that the Council believes are empty. Total vessel count is approaching 7,000, not including the support craft. Daesung nodded. What about the new weapon systems? Kyung-mi sent her report from Titan. The gravitational disruptor exceeded expectations. In testing, it collapsed a small moon into a singularity within 8 seconds. She says we could weaponize it against capital ships within 6 months. Too destructive. We want to disable enemy fleets, not commit genocide. Tell her to focus on the electromagnetic pulse systems instead. The transport docked at the human embassy station, another deliberately unimpressive structure that looked ready to fall apart. Inside, however, was a different story. Behind layers of basic-looking walls existed some of the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Jiwoo, director of Earth's Deep Space Intelligence Network, was waiting in the secure conference room. Maps and data streams covered every wall. The Vraken Collective is moving, Jiwoo said without preamble. Our deep space listening posts have detected massive fleet movements along their borders. They're consolidating forces. How massive? Daesung asked. 60% of their total military strength, maybe more. They're pulling ships from defense positions, from patrol routes, from everywhere. Something big is coming, Hana frowned. Do the other council species know? Some suspect, but they're not taking it seriously. They think the Vraken are just conducting military exercises. The council has grown soft and complacent. They haven't fought a real war in 400 years. Daesung walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. 200 years of pretending to be weak. 200 years of being laughed at. Dismissed. Treated like children. But it was necessary. Humans had studied galactic history carefully. Strong species were always targeted first. They were tested, challenged, forced into conflicts that drained their resources. Weak species were ignored, allowed to exist on the periphery. Earth had chosen to hide in plain sight. If the Vraken are mobilizing, Daesung said quietly, then war is coming. And when it does, the council will fracture. Some will submit, some will fight, and chaos will spread across the galaxy. Do we reveal ourselves? Hana asked. Not yet. We wait, we watch, and we prepare. Light years away on Titan, Kyung-mi reviewed the latest test results. Her team had been working on the project for 30 years. The gravitational disruptor was her life's work, but she understood Daesung's concerns. Humanity didn't want to be destroyers. They wanted to be protectors, even if the galaxy didn't know it yet. She pulled up another project file. The electromagnetic pulse system was less dramatic but more practical. It could disable entire fleets without killing a single being. That was more humanity's style. Efficient, controlled, precise. Her assistant, a young engineer named Tae-rim, brought her coffee. The council inspectors are coming next week, he reminded her. Kyungmi smiled. Let them come. They'll see exactly what we want them to see. The visible research facility on Titan was a joke, full of scientists supposedly struggling to understand basic fusion technology. The real facility was buried 3 kilometers beneath Titan's surface, shielded by layers of ice and rock and technology that made it invisible to any known scanning method. Back on Earth, in the city formerly known as Seoul, millions of people went about their daily lives. They worked, loved, argued, and dreamed just like always. But in schools, children learned a secret history. They learned about the decision made 200 years ago, when humanity first met alien species. The governments of Earth had gathered and asked one crucial question. How do we survive in a galaxy full of powerful, aggressive species? The answer had been unanimous. We hide our strength. We build in secret. We wait for the moment when the galaxy needs us, and only then do we reveal what humanity truly is. Teachers told students about the thousands of men and women who worked in hidden facilities, who could never tell their families what they really did, who watched as humanity was mocked and dismissed while keeping silent. They were heroes of a different kind, fighting a war of patience and deception. In the Galactic Council chambers, species debated whether to expel humanity entirely. Humans contributed so little militarily. They were a drain on resources. Their technology was primitive. Their ships were jokes. The vote was scheduled for 6 months from now. Daesung listened to the debates from his embassy and smiled. 6 months. By then, everything would be different. By then, the galaxy would understand what a terrible mistake they had made. The Vraken were coming. War was inevitable, and when the galaxy burned, humanity would finally step out of the shadows and show their true face. But not yet, not yet. Patience was humanity's greatest weapon, and they had been practicing it for 2 centuries. The message went out 6 hours after Ambassador Dae-hyun left the council chamber. It was encrypted with codes that only humans could read. It traveled through channels that only human ships could access. It reached every human colony, station, ship, and settlement across council space. The message was simple. 3 words. Protocol Omega. Begin now. On Arcturus Station, Governor Hyrin read the message in her office. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had run this station for 12 years. Arcturus was a hub where 5 different species lived and worked together. Humans managed the life support systems, the medical facilities, and the trade coordination. Other species handled their own sectors. Hyrin closed her eyes for a moment. She had hoped it would not come to this, but she had also prepared for it. She opened the station-wide channel to all human personnel. This is Governor Hyrin. Activate evacuation protocols. You have 48 hours. Pack only what matters. Help your neighbors if they ask. Do not argue with anyone. Just leave quietly. Within an hour, human families began packing. They took personal belongings, family photos, and important documents. They did not take anything that belonged to the station. They did not sabotage anything. They simply prepared to go. The other species on the station noticed quickly. A Velcros merchant stopped a human engineer named Minki in the corridor. Where are you going? The merchant demanded. Minki did not stop walking. Home, he said simply. But what about the station? You maintain the water recycling systems. Someone else will have to learn, Minki replied. He was not angry. He was not sad. He simply stated a fact. The merchant looked confused. You cannot just leave. Who will fix things? Minki finally stopped and turned. He was an older man with steady hands and patient eyes. He had built half the systems on this station himself. I left complete manuals in the engineering database, he said. Everything is documented. The systems will run automatically for about 6 months. After that, you will need to perform maintenance. The instructions are very clear, but we do not know how. Then you will learn, Minki said. We did. He continued walking toward the docking bay. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. On the merchant ship Prosperity, Captain Sung-ho recalled his entire fleet. He had 37 ships under his command, running trade routes between 17 different systems. His ships carried food, medicine, manufactured goods, and raw materials. His network connected dozens of worlds. He sent a message to every port authority. All contracts are canceled. All deliveries will cease within 72 hours. We recommend you find alternative suppliers. A Chitara portmaster sent back an angry message. You are bound by contract. We will sue. Sung-ho's response was brief. Check the contract. Section 47, subsection 12. Political instability clause. Humanity is no longer part of your government. Contract void. Good luck, he did not wait for a reply. His ships were already turning around, heading back to human space. In the Velcros plague zones, Medical Director Boram made the hardest decision of her life. She commanded 4 hospital ships. Her staff of 2,000 doctors and nurses had been fighting a plague for 8 months. They had saved millions of lives. The plague was finally under control. We are leaving, she told her senior staff. A young doctor named Jae-min looked shocked. But the patients will be transferred to local facilities, Boram interrupted gently. We will leave all our equipment. We will leave all our medicine. We will leave detailed treatment protocols. But we are leaving. Some of them will die without us, Jae-min said. His voice cracked. Boram felt a weight in her chest. She had not slept properly in months. She had held the hands of dying children. She had watched parents weep. Yes, she said softly. Some will die, and that breaks my heart. But we cannot force people to want our help. The council voted. They made their choice. Now we make ours. She placed a hand on Jae-min's shoulder. Pack up. We leave in 2 days. Jae-min wiped his eyes and nodded. The most critical withdrawal happened in silence. Chief Engineer Min-ki, who had left Arcturus Station, had a second job. He was one of 17 humans who maintained the jump gates. These gates were the backbone of faster-than-light travel. Without them, it took months or years to travel between systems. With them, the journey took hours. Humans had not invented jump gates, but they had perfected them. A gate required constant maintenance, precise calibration, and frequent updates. The technology was complex and delicate. Min-ki accessed the central network from his ship. He downloaded every human engineer's notes, every modification, every improvement made over the past century. Then he shut down the human access codes. He did not break anything. He did not sabotage anything. He simply removed human oversight. The gates would continue working automatically, for a while. On the council station, Chancellor Thrain watched reports flood in. Humans were leaving everywhere. Not some humans. All humans. Stop them, he ordered. Send security forces. Arrest them for breach of contract. His military advisor, a Chitara warrior named Vexala, shook her head. On what grounds? They have broken no laws. They are simply exercising their right to leave. They are destroying the council. No, Chancellor, Vexala said carefully. They are simply leaving. What happens after they leave is our problem, not theirs. This is a tantrum, Thrain insisted. They are upset about the vote. They will calm down. Send a diplomatic team to negotiate. The diplomatic team arrived at the human embassy 3 hours later. The embassy was empty. The humans had already packed everything and left. There was no furniture, no documents, no computers, just empty rooms. On the main desk, they found a single handwritten note. We wish you well. Within 48 hours, 90% of humans had left council space. Within 72 hours, the number reached 98%. The remaining 2% were deep space explorers who would need time to return. The exodus was orderly. There were no protests, no angry speeches, no violence. Humans simply packed their belongings, closed their shops, powered down their stations, and left. Some species tried to convince them to stay. A Kesari merchant begged Captain Sung-ho to reconsider. You are making a mistake, the Kesari said. We can work together. Sung-ho smiled sadly. You voted against the act. You tried to help us. We remember that. When things stabilize, we will trade with you again, but we cannot stay in a system designed to exploit us. What will happen to the council? Sung-ho looked out at the stars. I do not know. That is not our responsibility anymore. We tried to make it work. They did not want partners. They wanted servants, so we left. By the end of the week, human space was crowded with returning ships. Every colony welcomed them home. They had space. They had resources. They had been preparing for this possibility for years, though they had hoped it would never come. In council space, the first problems appeared. Medical supplies ran low. Food shipments stopped. Communication networks began experiencing glitches. Patrol routes went unmanned, and the humans were gone. Quietly, completely. Gone. Chancellor Thrain sat in his office staring at reports. They will come back, he told himself. They need us as much as we need them. But in his heart he was beginning to suspect that was not true at all. 4 days after the humans left, the first real crisis hit. The Velcros plague, which Medical Director Boram and her team had been controlling, started spreading again. The local doctors tried to follow the protocols the humans had left behind. But the protocols were complex. They required equipment the local facilities did not have. They required medicines that needed to be mixed in precise measurements. Within a week, 3 hospitals were overwhelmed. Within 2 weeks, the death count started rising again. Chancellor Thrain received the reports with growing alarm. Contact the human medical ships, he ordered. Offer them whatever they want. Triple pay, quadruple, just get them back here. His aide tried for 2 days to reach Boram. She finally answered on the 3rd day. Her face appeared on the screen and she looked tired but peaceful. Chancellor, she said politely. Director Boram, we need your help. The plague is spreading again. People are dying. I know, she said softly. I am very sorry. Then come back. We will pay you whatever you ask. Boram shook her head. Chancellor, this is not about money. We left complete instructions. We left medicine and equipment. We left everything you need, but we do not know how to use it. Then learn, Boram said. We had to learn once. We studied. We practiced. We made mistakes and learned from them. You can do the same. People will die while we learn. Boram's eyes were sad. Yes, they will. And that breaks my heart. But you voted to take 40% of everything we built. You voted to control us. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot take our freedom and demand our service. The screen went dark. On day 7, the food crisis began. The Chitara hive worlds had always struggled with agriculture. Their planet was mostly desert and rock. They depended on imported food. 30% of that food came from human agricultural colonies. When the shipment stopped, the Chitara tried to buy from other sources, but those sources were already supplying their own people. There was no surplus. A Chitara leader named Vexala contacted Human Agricultural Administrator Hirin. Vexala was a proud warrior, but now she had to beg. We have money, Vexala said. We will pay premium prices. Please, our young are hungry. Hirin looked at her with sympathy. I am sorry. Our agricultural output is already committed to feeding our own people and our allies. We could be your allies. You voted for the act, Hirin said quietly. You stood with the Chancellor. You wanted to take 40% of our production without paying for it. Now you want to buy it at premium prices. Do you see the contradiction? Vexala's mandibles clicked in frustration. That was politics. This is survival. Politics has consequences, Hirin replied. We are not your enemy, but we are also not your safety net. You made decisions. Now you live with them. I am truly sorry. The transmission ended. By day 10, the military situation deteriorated. Pirates had always been a problem in the border regions, but human patrol ships had kept them in check. Human tactical coordination had made the Council's defensive network efficient. Now the patrol routes were empty. Pirates attacked merchant ships with impunity. 3 colonies were raided in a single week. The Council fleet tried to respond, but their coordination was terrible. Ships from different species used different communication protocols. They had different tactical doctrines. They had always relied on human coordinators to translate and organize everything. Vexala, who was also the Council's military commander, tried to organize a response to a pirate base. It was a disaster. 5 different species sent ships. They arrived at different times. They could barely communicate. 2 ships almost fired on each other by mistake. The pirates escaped easily. Vexala sat in her command center, staring at the tactical display. She had been a warrior for 30 years. She had fought in a dozen campaigns. She had always thought of humans as soft, more interested in trade and medicine than fighting. Now she understood. Humans had not been soft. They had been smart. They had been organized. They had been the glue holding everything together. She sent a message to Admiral Young-Soo, the human fleet commander. "We need your tactical support. Name your price." Young-Soo's reply came 12 hours later. "Commander Vexala, we appreciate the offer. However, we are currently busy defending our own space and our allies. We do not have resources to spare for the Council. We recommend you develop your own tactical coordination systems. It will take time, but you will manage eventually." The message was polite but firm. Translation: you are on your own. On day 15, the economic collapse began. The human banking system had guaranteed loans across Council space. Human insurance companies had covered risks that no one else would touch. Human currency had been the standard for interstellar trade because everyone trusted it. Now the banks closed their doors to Council members. The insurance policies were canceled. The currency exchange rates went crazy. A merchant colony called Telos Station had depended entirely on human-backed credit to buy supplies. When the credit disappeared, they could not pay their bills. Within 3 days, the station was bankrupt. 2,000 families became refugees overnight. Similar stories played out across Council space. Businesses failed. Savings evaporated. Trade routes collapsed. Tae-sung, the human economist, received hundreds of messages begging for help. He ignored most of them, but he did send one message to the Council's economic minister. "You wanted to take 40% of our economic infrastructure. Now you see what that infrastructure was actually holding up. We tried to warn you. You did not listen. We cannot fix this for you. You will need to build your own systems. It will take years. Good luck." Chancellor Thrain called emergency session after emergency session. Every meeting was chaos. Species blamed each other. Old rivalries came back to the surface. The Velcros blamed the Chitara for being too greedy. The Chitara blamed the Murnos for supporting the act. The Murnos blamed the Velcros for leading the vote. "We must bring the humans back," Thrain insisted. "We must negotiate. With what leverage?" a Kessari delegate asked quietly. "We have nothing they need. They have everything we need. We could threaten them," a Velcros general suggested. "Send warships to their territory." The room went silent. Vexala spoke up. "That would be suicide. The humans have been building their own fleet. They know all our tactics. They designed most of our weapons. A war would be very short and very embarrassing for us. Then what do we do?" No one had an answer. Thrain sent a personal message to Ambassador Dae-hyun. It was marked urgent. Highest priority. He offered everything. Full veto power for humans on the Council, reduced contribution requirements, formal apology. Dae-hyun's response came 3 days later. It was brief. "Chancellor Thrain, we appreciate your message. However, humanity has moved on. We are no longer interested in Council membership under any terms. We tried partnership. It did not work. We wish you well in your future endeavors. There is no table to return to. You voted us out. We are staying out." Thrain read the message 10 times. He kept hoping he had misunderstood. But the words were clear. The humans were not coming back. Not for money. Not for apologies. Not for anything. Around him, Council space continued its slow collapse. Medical systems failing. Food shortages spreading. Pirates raiding freely. Economy crumbling. Species turning on each other. And in the silence, everyone finally understood what they had lost. The humans had not been trying to dominate the Council. They had been holding it together. They had been the infrastructure, the foundation, the steady hands doing the unglamorous work that kept civilization functioning. Now those hands were gone. And the Council was learning a hard lesson. It is much easier to take something for granted than it is to replace it once it is gone. 6 months passed. The galaxy had changed. The Galactic Council still existed, but barely. 57 species had been members. Now only 31 remained. 7 species had collapsed economically and dissolved into refugee populations. 19 had withdrawn, tired of the constant fighting and chaos. The Velcros empire was tearing itself apart. Without human medical technology, their plague had killed millions. Without human trade networks, their economy had crashed. Different Velcros factions blamed each other and started fighting. Civil war seemed inevitable. The Chitara hives faced starvation. They had tried to develop their own agriculture, but it would take years. Millions of Chitara had already died. Millions more survived on emergency rations that barely kept them alive. The Murnos had retreated to their water worlds and closed their borders. They were surviving, but just barely. Chancellor Thrain had been removed from power. A new chancellor had been elected, but nobody respected her authority. The council meetings were shouting matches where nothing got decided. Meanwhile, human space was thriving. Governor Hiron stood in the observation deck of New Sol Station, watching ships come and go. The station had been expanded twice in 6 months. Every dock was full. Trade was booming. "We are processing 50,000 refugees this month," her assistant told her. "Mostly Kessari and other species that voted against the act. How are we managing?" Hiron asked. "Well, they are willing to work. They are grateful. We are screening them carefully, but most are genuine refugees, not opportunists." Hiron nodded. "Good, we help people who need help. But we help them on our terms, not because someone demands it." In a laboratory on Earth, scientist Jai Ha published a breakthrough paper on faster-than-light travel. His new jump gate design was 30% more efficient than the old council gates. It was safer, faster, and cheaper to maintain. The council had restricted his research for years. They had committees and regulations and endless reviews. They said his work was too dangerous or not properly vetted. Really, they just wanted to control the technology. Now he was free to research whatever he wanted. And he was making discoveries at an incredible pace. "This is what we could have been doing all along," he told his research team. "We were wasting our potential trying to make the council happy. Now we make ourselves happy. And we are achieving more than we ever did before." Admiral Young-Soo commanded a fleet that was becoming the most powerful in the galaxy. Human ships had always been well designed. But now, without council restrictions, they were exceptional. He was not planning to attack anyone. But he made sure everyone knew that human space was protected. Pirates who tried to raid human colonies learned quickly to stay away. The few who tried did not return. "We are not conquerors," Young-Soo told his officers. "We are defenders. But we defend our friends too. Anyone who stands with us will be protected." The new alliance was called the Terran Commonwealth. 19 species had joined. These were mostly smaller species that had always been treated fairly by humans. They had voted against the act. They had tried to stop the exploitation. Now they were rewarded for their loyalty. The Commonwealth was smaller than the Council had been, but it was stronger. Its members actually trusted each other. They traded fairly. They shared resources willingly. They protected each other genuinely. There was no 40% tax. There was no central board controlling everything. There were just mutual agreements, fair contracts, and genuine partnership. Integration. Director Suman reviewed applications from species wanting to join the Commonwealth. Every day, dozens of applications arrived. Most were from desperate council species that had suddenly discovered they needed human help. She rejected almost all of them. "Why?" a Myrnos ambassador asked. He had flown all the way to Earth to plead his case. "We can pay. We can contribute. Let us join." Suman looked at him calmly. "You voted for the act. You stood with the Chancellor. You tried to take what we built without permission. Now you want to join because you need us. That is not partnership. That is opportunism." "We made a mistake," the ambassador admitted. "Yes, you did," Suman agreed. "And mistakes have consequences. Trust is not granted. It is earned. You took a century of trust and destroyed it with a single vote. It will take time to rebuild that trust, years, maybe decades. We do not have decades. Our people are suffering." Suman felt sympathy, but she did not waver. "I am sorry for your suffering. Truly. But we cannot save you from the consequences of your own decisions. That would not help you. You need to learn to solve your own problems." The ambassador left angry, but Suman knew she was right. The Commonwealth could not become a charity organization. It had to remain a genuine alliance of equals. The Kessari were different. They had always treated humans with respect. They had voted against the act. When they applied to join the Commonwealth, Suman personally approved it. "Welcome," she told the Kessari representative, a diplomat named Yaru. "You stood with us when it mattered. We will stand with you now." Yaru's eyes filled with tears. The Kessari had been struggling since the council collapsed. "Thank you. We will not forget this, we know," Suman said. "That is why you are here. Some species tried other approaches. A Chitra general sent a message to Admiral Young-Soo. It was aggressive and demanding. You have food. We need food. We will pay or we will take it by force. Choose, Young-Soo replied with coordinates. These are the locations of your military bases and command centers. If a single Chitara warship enters Commonwealth space with hostile intent, we will destroy these bases in 3 hours. We do not want war, but we will defend ourselves. Choose carefully. The Chitara general did not reply. No Chitara warships approached Commonwealth space. Other approaches were more humble. A group of Velcro scientists contacted JHA. They were researchers who had opposed the act but been ignored by their government. We are not asking for charity, their message said. We are asking for cooperation. We will share our research freely. We will work with you as equals. Please, science should not be political. JHA considered carefully. Then he replied, "Send your data. We will review it. If your research is genuine and your intent is honest, we can work together. But you work with us, not for us. Partners." The Velcro scientists agreed immediately. 7 months after the exodus, Ambassador Dae-hyun received a visitor. The new Velcros government, the one that had overthrown Chancellor Thrain, sent a delegation. They met in a conference room on Earth. The Velcros diplomats looked uncomfortable. They were used to dominating meetings. Now they were asking for help. Ambassador Dae-hyun, the lead diplomat, began. "We want to apologize. The previous government made terrible mistakes. We are different. We want to start over." Dae-hyun listened politely. He was older now, more gray in his hair. He looked tired. "What exactly do you want to start over?" he asked. "Relations with humanity, trade, cooperation, perhaps eventually joining the Commonwealth." Dae-hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Do you know why we left?" he asked. "Because of the act?" "No," Dae-hyun interrupted gently. "The act was just the final straw. We left because you never saw us as partners. You saw us as tools, useful tools, but tools nonetheless. You used what we built, benefited from what we created, but you never respected us as equals." The Velcro's diplomats looked uncomfortable. "We wanted partnership," Dae-hyun continued. "We wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We gave freely because we believed in the Council's ideals. But the Council did not believe in those ideals. It believed in power and control. We can change," one diplomat insisted. "Perhaps," Dae-hyun said, "but that change will take time. Years. You need to prove you have changed. Words are easy. Actions matter. Show us over time that you have learned. Maybe then we can talk about partnership. What should we do? Solve your own problems. Help your own people. Stop expecting others to save you. When you can stand on your own, when you treat others fairly without needing anything from them, then come talk to us. Not before." The meeting ended. The Velcros left quietly. Dae-hyun stood at the window looking out at Earth. Ji-won joined him. "Do you think they will learn?" she asked. "Some will," Dae-hyun said. "Others will not. But that is not our responsibility anymore. We tried to teach them before. They did not want to learn. Now they have to teach themselves. Do you regret leaving?" Dae-hyun thought about the question carefully. "No," he finally said. "We should have left sooner. We stayed too long trying to make something work that was broken. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is stop helping people who refuse to help themselves." Outside, the ships of the Commonwealth came and went, carrying trade and travelers and hope for a better future. 2 years had passed since the Exodus. The galaxy looked completely different now. The Galactic Council existed in name only. Only 23 species remained as members, down from 57. They met occasionally, but nobody took the meeting seriously anymore. The Council had no power, no resources, and no respect. It was a ghost of what it had been. The Velcros Empire had broken into 4 separate factions. They were still fighting each other. Millions had died in the Civil War. Some Velcros had given up on their government entirely and become refugees, seeking homes in other systems. The Chitara hives had lost nearly half their population to starvation and disease. The survivors had finally developed basic agriculture, but it had taken everything they had. They had no energy left for politics or expansion. They focused entirely on survival. The Murnos kept to themselves on their water worlds. They traded occasionally with nearby species, but they were no longer a major power. They had retreated from galactic affairs completely. Other species that had supported the act were suffering similar fates. Some had recovered partially. Others had collapsed entirely. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about taking things for granted. Meanwhile, the Terran Commonwealth was thriving. 26 species were now members. The Commonwealth covered a third of the old council's territory, but it was far more stable and prosperous. Trade flowed smoothly. Disputes were resolved fairly. Member species actually helped each other instead of exploiting each other. Governor Hyarin had been elected as the Commonwealth's first coordinator. It was not like being chancellor. The coordinator had no supreme power. She simply organized meetings and made sure everyone's voice was heard. "We do not need rulers," she said at her inauguration. "We need listeners. We need people who help others work together, not people who tell others what to do." The Commonwealth Assembly met on a rotating schedule. Each species hosted for 3 months. This month, the meeting was on the Kessari homeworld. Representative Yaru welcomed the delegates warmly. The Kessari had flourished under Commonwealth membership. Their economy had recovered. Their people were happy. 2 years ago, we were starving, Yaru told the assembly. The council had collapsed. We had no trade partners. We thought we might not survive. The humans could have ignored us. They could have demanded steep prices for their help. Instead, they offered us partnership. Equal partnership. We will never forget that. Captain Sung Ho was at the meeting as the human trade representative. He listened to Yaru's speech and felt satisfied. This was what they had wanted all along. Not gratitude, not subordination, just partnership. After the meeting, he walked with Yaru through the Kessari capital city. It was beautiful, full of gardens and fountains. "Do you ever regret leaving the council?" Yaru asked. Sung Ho thought about it. "No," he said. "We regret that it came to that. We regret that we could not make it work. But leaving was the right decision. We were not punishing anyone. We were respecting ourselves. Some species think you were cruel. They say you abandoned the galaxy in its time of need. We spent 147 years meeting the galaxy's needs," Sung Ho replied. "We gave freely. We helped constantly. When we asked for basic respect in return, we were told to give 40% more. That is not partnership. That is exploitation. Walking away from exploitation is not cruel. It is necessary." Yaru nodded slowly. "What about the species still suffering? The Velcros, the Chitara, the others? I feel sorry for them," Sung Ho said honestly. "I wish they were not suffering. But we cannot save people from their own choices. They chose to vote for the act. They chose to ignore our warnings. They chose exploitation over cooperation. Now they live with those choices. Should we help them if they ask? That depends," Sung Ho said. "Are they asking for charity or partnership? Do they want us to solve their problems or do they want to work together as equals? There is a difference." Medical Director Boram faced the same questions. The Chitara had finally sent her a message. It was from their new leader, a young Chitara named Velsara. The message was different from the others. It was not demanding. It was not begging. It was humble. "Director Boram, we know we have no right to ask for your help. We know we voted against you. We know we supported taking your work without compensation. We were wrong. We are sorry. We are not asking you to come back. We are asking if you would teach us. We will pay for your time. We will respect your knowledge. We just want to learn, please." Boram read the message 3 times. Then she replied, "I will send 3 of my staff to your world. They will teach your doctors everything they know. In exchange, you will share all medical data freely with the Commonwealth. And you will promise to treat future patients fairly, regardless of species. If you agree, we have a deal." Velsara agreed immediately. The teaching mission began 2 weeks later. Boram's colleague Jaimin, who had wept when they left the plague zones, volunteered to go. "They need help," he said. "I am a doctor. I have to help." Boram hugged him. "Go, teach them well. But remember, you are teaching, not serving. They need to learn to stand on their own." "I understand," Jaimin said. Admiral Youngsu dealt with a different challenge. Some old council species had turned to piracy. Desperate and angry, they raided anyone they could reach. A group of Velcros pirates attacked a Commonwealth merchant ship. The ship escaped, but barely. Youngsu sent a fleet to track down the pirates. When they found the pirate base, they destroyed it completely. Then he broadcast a message to all the old council territories. "The Commonwealth protects its own. If you attack our ships, our colonies, or our people, we will respond with overwhelming force. We do not want war, but we will not tolerate aggression. Choose peace and we will leave you alone. Choose violence and we will end you." The message was harsh, but it worked. Pirate attacks dropped by 90% within a month. Not all interactions were hostile. Some council species genuinely wanted to change. A group of Murno scientists contacted JHA. They had developed a new water purification technology. They offered to share it freely with the Commonwealth. "We are not asking to join," their message said. "We are just sharing knowledge. Science should be open." JHA was impressed. He reviewed their research and found it excellent. He invited them to collaborate on a joint project. "Why are you being generous to us?" one Murno scientist asked during a video call. "We voted for the act. We hurt you." "You did," JHA agreed. "But you are also scientists. You understand that knowledge should be shared. You are offering real cooperation, not demanding charity. That is the difference. We can work with that." The collaboration produced remarkable results. Together they developed technology that helped both species. Ambassador Dae-hyun had retired from active diplomacy. He taught now, at a university on Earth. His students were young people preparing for diplomatic careers. "Tell us about the Exodus," a student asked one day. "Why did humanity leave?" Dae-hyun sat on the edge of his desk. He looked older now, his hair completely gray, but his eyes were still sharp. "We left because we finally learned to respect ourselves," he said. "For 147 years we gave and gave and gave. We thought that was what good people did. We thought that was partnership, but it was not." "No," Dae-hyun said. "Partnership is mutual. Both sides give, both sides receive, both sides respect each other. We were giving everything and receiving demands for more. That is not partnership. That is exploitation. And the hardest lesson we learned is that staying in an exploitative situation does not make you noble. It makes you complicit in your own exploitation." "Do you think we did the right thing?" "I know we did," Dae-hyun said firmly. "We tried everything else first. We negotiated. We compromised. We explained, we warned. They did not listen, so we left. And in leaving, we taught the galaxy something important." "What?" "That you cannot take people for granted forever. That exploitation eventually ends one way or another. And that the people who do the work, who build the infrastructure, who hold everything together quietly, those people have the power to walk away. When they do, everything falls apart." Another student raised her hand. "Should we help rebuild the council?" Dae-hyun shook his head. "The council is dead. Let it die. We have built something better. The Commonwealth is smaller, but it is real. It is based on actual partnership, not pretty speeches about unity while practicing exploitation. We do not need to rebuild the past. We need to build the future." That evening, Dae-hyun stood on his balcony looking up at the stars. Ji-won joined him. She had retired from security work and now ran a training academy. "Do you think we will ever truly forgive them?" she asked. "Some of them, maybe," Dae-hyun said. "The ones who learn, the ones who change. But it will take time. Trust is like glass. Once it breaks, you can put the pieces back together, but you will always see the cracks." "Was it worth it? All the pain, all the conflict?" Dae-hyun smiled. "Look at what we have built. The Commonwealth is everything we wanted the Council to be. Our people are happy. Our allies are treated fairly. We make decisions together instead of having them forced on us. Yes, it was worth it." Far away, on a damaged Velcros colony, a young engineer named Koran worked to repair a water purification system. He followed human manuals that had been left behind. It took him 3 weeks to figure it out.